Hello, welcome to another Excel at the office, and in this video I call it RIP iMac 27 because in the in the Apple event yesterday they basically just killed it off. It's a really sad situation. Among all the fanfare, it was just it wasn't even kind of announced. They just slyly took it to the side, round the back of the uh, garage and shot it dead like a poor animal being put down. So I'm going to kind of discuss my thoughts on the Apple event and the new products launch, but also why I think it's a massive mistake that Apple are doing and potentially a marketing ploy, removing any notion of the all-in-one 27-inch, whether that's the iMac or the iMac Pro, from their product portfolio, and it's a massive pain because now I have to recommend something else on my website at Excel at the office. So it's a bit of an unusual video today, but I just wanted to share some thoughts on it because I don't normally watch these Apple events. I'm one of these that kind of sits on the fence and uses both Apple and Windows products, and I'm somewhat amused at the detailed technical bickering between the various users. I think it's good to be able to have both arrows in your bow and use both. And yeah, I take the hit on the slightly more expensive Apple products when I use my iMac I've used for photography and MacBook Pro so far for this work on Excel at the office. But yeah, so coming to the Apple event, they launched it yesterday. I'm speaking on the 9th of March. It's a very nice fanfare. Here's a little screen grab of the video that's on YouTube. You can catch it at this link. I'll share it in the link below. They did it on International Women's Day, and I thought it was a very nice touch. The attention to detail that sometimes people don't pick up on with Apple, and that's one of the reasons they're so successful and superb. Like, for example, it was International Women's Day, and it's probably no accident they showcased plenty of their very professional female presenters and experts and designers and so on in the video. Even another attention to detail. Did you notice that Tim, the CEO's yellow watch and blue matching top perfectly colour matched to the Ukrainian flag? I thought that was an interesting touch. But yeah, as I mentioned, here's the detail most have missed, so it's going to be the end of iMac 27-inch and iMac Pro. No! I mean, normally these seem to be mundane events and nothing I get excited about, so they kind of fill in products where you don't think it's necessary to fill in, or I don't think it fills the gaps. Maybe, say for example, when they brought in the MacBook Air at the time, I thought, well, if you wanted a kind of light MacBook, why not just have a iPad? Just get a MacBook Pro or just get a cheaper laptop. And then when they brought out the iPad Pro, well, why not just get some kind of MacBook? So they tend to infill. They have a complete product suite, which I'll come to in a minute. But first, here's the headlines of what's new before I give some perspective. So one of the things, so the main things they introduced, I think the main headlines are the Mac Studio and associated Studio Display, and that's the main meat and potatoes that I'll come to in a minute, and why I think they've made a massive mistake here. There's the iPhone 13, all that fancy stuff. I never really I'm not one of these types that are on the forefront of new technology. However, the iPhone 13 SE value mode is quite an attractive offer for people like me at less than 20 quid a month for the 128 gigabytes. That doesn't seem like a bad deal with the processing chip they put in it, but you can learn more about that. People know much more about phones than me, but one thing that I did find funny, all this kind of talk, oh, it's the green iPhone casing, oh look, they've made tin or whatever they make it out of, some fancy metal. Again, if technical people probably disinterested in my videos. But they've made it green. Did you? They've got purple, they had pink, they had red, they had blue, space grey, because obviously everything in space is grey, not black. Who knew? But maybe that's more to emulate a spaceship. Who knows? But now they've got green, and I just laugh about that, and not just because it's a bit of a lame thing to present. Not least because have they not heard of phone cases? Like no, I don't know. It just all seems pretty pointless to me. It's very, very showy and doesn't add any value. I like the functionality. So yeah, you've got not just new phones, but a new green for your phones should you want it. But for the budget end, the SE iPhone 13 doesn't look too bad for less than 20 quid a month. And they launched an iPad Air, which seems to be a bit of one of those, I think, pointless additions to the product portfolio. But then again, they like to have a whole suite of stuff ranging from nothing to being able to spend 50 grand on a computer. So I'll come to that in a bit. But I guess it seems it's fairly advanced. I think there's been some criticism at the base level. You're not going to get a decent model for $599 entry price that they advertise. I'll come to the Mac site just to show you, because the iPad and new, they've already put it on their site, iPad Air. Oh wow, light bright, full of might. They probably missed a trick there where they could have done something with Marmite, but who knows for the alliteration. But to get the where is it now? View pricing, that's it. Oh, all the finishes: space grey, pink, blue, purple, starlight. Where's the green on this one? I demand green. Why have they not done it? But first of all, you choose your colour. It's quite nice. And so basically, the way they get away with saying from 519 or £569 is because the storage is worse than a lot of phones. So that seems odd. So really, in reality, you're starting from 719. So it's just the usual cheeky tricks Apple do. But let's go back to Mac, because I'll cover that in a minute. But yeah, iPad Air, just it seems to be that they're emulating the MacBook range with the iPad now. So you've got iPad Air, iPad Pro, for example, and then with the Mac, you've got MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and so on. So I think that seems to be where they're going with it. And yeah, so but I just think with iPad Air or iPad Pro even, by the time you've done the features and stuff, you may as well spend the £1,000 or so on a decent MacBook, be that the MacBook Air, which I've kind of warmed up to over the years, particularly with their latest model, and I recommend it on my recommended laptops page, which I'll link in this video link. If you're just going to use it for, I still see tablets as something just for gaming and fun. If you're going to do some serious work, you need a keyboard, you need all that stuff, and when you add all that anyway to an iPad, you end up spending, if not more than a MacBook or even a MacBook Pro. And then the other main thing they announced, coming to the last thing at this event, was the M1 Ultra chip. Look at that chip, sorry. And if you just want a quick screen grab here, I mean, look at that. It's there's the M1 chip. There's M1 Pro. It's like, oh, it's double the size. M1 Max. Wow, now it's looking like a small, organized new town. And the M1 Ultra is not just a city, but it's a whole tower block of combined power. Very, yeah. Well, I watched the video. It's very impressive. But long and short, it's fast and very expensive. So yeah, I rarely watch these events, but this time my interest was spiked. I'm not sure why, I just thought, well, what are they up to these days? And like I mentioned before, I'm not one of these Marmite characters that either loves or hates Apple or Windows. I use both, and I have to use both, and it's a good thing to do. But yeah, those battles can be amusing. But my interest peaked when they brought in, they talked about Mac Studio, because normally the infill to their product range is pretty unnecessary. If you want a bigger iPhone, fancy a iPad mini. Oh, by the way, you can't make any calls on it. If you want a cheaper MacBook Pro, there's the MacBook Air, and so on. But there's always been this kind of big gap between what was the gap between Mac Mini and Mac Pro for those that want a kind of base unit and a display separately. A massive gap, despite, however, always leading the field and in my view, offering the best all-in-one through their iMac and what is no longer shown here, the iMac, the iMac 24-inch, and what is no longer shown here, the iMac 27-inch. But yeah, that gap, it was just a Mac Mini where you could get a fairly decent spec if you've paid about 800 quid or so, maybe 1,000 for going a bit more advanced, and very kind of compact and neat, tidy, right up to ridiculous power in the Mac Pro. And with that ridiculous power comes ridiculous prices that it's just completely insane. So for example, if I just take you through, it's the from £5,500. So if we just kind of configure the Mac Pro, and you can spend upwards of 50,000 if you're going for, well, I've got the Mac Pro, I may as well get a decent turbo boost and processor, so maybe just go for the couple of thousand option. Oop, that's already taken out to 7.5. Memory, 32 gigabytes of DDR4. Well, it's a massive thing. I want to future-proof myself, so I'm going to go 192 gig. It's just pushed past 10 grand. Well, graphics card, I don't want a normal graphics card. I want to push the boundaries a bit and, again, future-proof, and so on. You can do this. I find it funny that this they basically give a half-decent laptop storage as your standard thing. So in this massive tower, but ultimately you're probably going to go for about 4 terabytes of storage, and so on and so forth. Afterburner card, that sounds awesome, doesn't it? But anyway, you get the idea. There's a massive price gap between the Mac Mini, I won't go through the details of that, but the Mac Pro. So this was actually a really impressive piece of kit that kind of physically and on the computationally fills in that gap, and at the price gap as well, it's filling in that between the 1,000 and 5.5 grand jump, so that's offering something for just from 199, and we'll come to that in a moment. So, but what I was bemused and not very amused about is they seem to think that Mac users now no longer completely don't care about having an all-in-one for because going with that, they then say, well, okay, but you've got this what they call an Empower station, but oh, by the way, that's just the unit and a power lead. You also have to have a display with that. But thankfully, we've funnily enough just designed and launched a 27-inch 5K Retina display that happens to be pretty much very similar to the all-in-one 27-inch iMac, but you can't do anything other than display stuff on it. Which, but it's a very similar price. Just to so, yeah, what they think is that Mac users will take this on the chin, take out where you used to be able to get half decent iMac 27-inch for just under £2,000, or an iMac Pro for the real kind of advanced features with massive kind of resolution on your screen for just over £3,000. I mean, both are out of my price range, so it's kind of amusing that I'm comparing stuff that I can't afford anyway. But I just think that's a massive mistake to kind of. I'm not sure people are going to kind of accept this. You might think differently, but that is a big ask. It's not just asking a few £100, but it's saying you can no longer have this stuff for £2,000. You need to kind of spend at least 5k to get the combination of a display along with your Mac Studio. Again, from 199, but let's order now, and I'll show you. That's quite a cheeky way of displaying it, because to get the new M1 Ultra, so that massive city tower block of a chip, advanced chip, that's actually double, or slightly more than double. But even if we go for the kind of basic level, let's select this and see what do we get for 199. Oh, I've done some customization here. So I've added £200 to get the, well, again, like if you're going to spend that much, you may as well get a few extra cores, and the out of the box is 32GB unified memory, so there's another 400 for 64GB. And again, you're never going to have 512GB of SSD storage in such a powerful unit. You're going to go for at least 2 terabytes of storage. And just to kind of twist the knife, so again, with the iMac 27-inch and the iMac Pro, you would at least get the mouse and the keyboard, but what's in this box? It's literally just the base unit and the power lead. So go and spend another 150, 200 quid to get your Magic Mouse and Magic Keyboard, and then another £1.50 to get your screen to actually see and what on earth you're doing. So here's why I think these are massive mistakes. So other than I might have pointed out the obvious here, but they're basically leaving a massive gap in the market where they previously led everything. I thought the 27-inch all-in-one was great for photographers, and it's not just previously leading. One of the reasons they've led is because of the innovation of not having the base unit separate from the screen and all the leads and things that comes with. I think they're underestimating the psychological connection people have for the all-in-one and going big or going home rather than the 24-inch. Even if it does happen to fit as they show in their event, that it fits under the screen, which you can go and find. They'll probably lose customers like me. So I've got a 2008 iMac 24-inch that I've used for photography, weddings, and all kinds of digital editing and design. And I was thinking about upgrading to the 27-inch iMac, but they'll just get no revenue from people like me now because, well, I'm nowhere going to be spending £5,000 on a new computer. I'll just stick with what I've got for the time being, thanks. And as it happens, I've recently bought a Samsung, their main competitor, Windows laptop, quite a good deal. I'll probably add it to my recommendations on my site because it's I want to do more videos using Office for Windows, just to kind of broaden my reach a little bit. So yeah, I'll stick with that kit, and they're not just losing a product that would otherwise sit right here. They're losing a flagship, iconic product. People actually had a desire. That that iMac 27-inch Pro is something I've even recommended on my site as a kind of, if your money's unlimited or not so limited as mine, that's a really good option for design and inbuilt power. If you didn't want to kind of have a separate base unit and go as extreme to the Mac Pro at the time, but I might update that to the Mac Studio and Display for now, but again it's adding several thousand to the cost. And now there's a gaping hole in the market from their competitors for an all-in-one large screen and desktop, which the competitors will probably capitalise in terms of market share. Samsung is level pegging generally with Apple on a range of things, and this might be something that they're gonna take on the mantle. So, normally I don't think Apple often makes such massive mistakes. I mean, to me it seems like a massive strategic mistake. So I kind of wonder whether or not it's just a bit of a marketing ploy, and they'll go, "Oh, we heard you. There's been a lot of fuss. The designers out there, the main target audience of ours that love the big screen and all-in-one and don't want to spend massive amounts straight away. It's just a marketing ploy. They'll probably bring, oh, we've brought out a new version for you, the iMac Ultra, whatever they might call it. But for now, it is RIP iMac 27, which is why I added it as a bit of a hashtag on my Twitter account yesterday as part of my reaction to it, because I thought it was a bit weird. As they were doing it, they were comparing, and I'll show you a screenshot here. There was a kind of some clues going on in the presentation, another kind of error, and I'd kind of advise against this if you're launching a product, a new fantastic product. Don't denigrate everything else you've ever made, because no one will want to buy those other products. So as you can see on the kind of Mac lineup, the Mac Pro is a better product, supposedly, than Mac Studio, and it's priced as such, as I went through earlier. And I've just gone through the options before. You can literally spend £50,000 on one computer, depending on the spec you have. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy money. But in their product launch, they say, oh, by the way, this new Mac Studio that's a tenth of the price of that is 90% faster than our Mac Pro. So, and they kept doing this in across several features. Again, so they're comparing Mac Studio there with their iMac 27-inch, which was a bit strange why they would do that. But yeah, so they were making lots of comparisons. Oh yeah, and oh, this is 50% faster even with the M1 Max chip compared to their Mac Pro. So CPU performance, that sounds pretty important. So yeah, just word of advice, don't denigrate your range of other products. So they were denigrating the Mac Pro, they were denigrating the iMacs, and all the other things, saying this is so great, it makes all our other stuff look like, well, there's probably a less rude word than I thought in my head there to keep it clean. So yeah, it's going to be a massive cost. It's a great product, but I think it's just too out there. If money's no object, it's a worthwhile investment. And I must admit, I was impressed on the plus side. Again, some of the environmental credentials they put out, so a bit more rounded than your usual company. Oh, we do this on carbon dioxide emissions. They talk about recycling. They've using recyclable products, using less toxic products in their materials, sorry, in their products. So I thought that was a nice touch. So overall, I don't normally watch these things. I probably won't again, because I just had some silly opinions that I thought I might share with you. And you might think this is all nonsense, or you might think it's helpful to help you excel at the office and choose a product, be that Mac or having watched this and now knowing the iMac 27-inch is no longer available, holding off or getting something different entirely, and maybe making the jump to Windows. Who knows? But I hope you found this helpful, and as a bit of a summary of the Apple event on the 8th of March, and I will release something more meaningful in terms of tutorials and blogs and such in due course. Okay, thanks for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.